I love the sun, but extremely bright. All right, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. All right, beautiful people. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up. Christy, that's Wabu. Lavon, peace and blessings. Bring this on over here. YouTube, top of the day. And that's ready to roll. Keep your host effect. All right, y'all. Everybody sleep good. I hope so. I did. I went to bed kind of early. Then I woke up early. Then I went back to sleep. I woke up again and decided to get up. There we go. Okay, beautiful people. All of y'all, peace and blessings. Belinda Brown, accounted for. She present. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and get started. Yo, y'all see that plane that it was on the news this morning. I don't know if y'all seen it, but they just showed it today. It was a plane. Guess was having some engine trouble. It looked like a little small private plane. It landed at the beach in the water. It was coming down. Nobody was hurt. The pilot was okay, and it was people at the beach. And there was a guy. Apparently, maybe nobody was screaming. Here comes a plane, and the guy that was in the water with a plane. Apparently, he didn't see it till the last moment. He just kind of ducked in. That's how close he was to meeting his maker. I think this was yesterday. They just showed it on the news early this morning. I'm like, oh, you gotta look real close. You will see the guy. He ducks down under the water in the plane. As soon as that happened, he immediately glided across the water, So apparently some engine trouble. Blessed be the most holy. Nobody was hurt. Everybody out there at the beach. Like, when does that happen? Anything can happen, right? Like, whoa, better get yourself together. Because who would ever thought they would die in a plane crash while having fun at the beach, right? It's those close calls. Look, also in North Carolina, apparently they had some kind of mishap with the COVID vaccinations and shots, and it was quite a few people went to get their vaccine at Walgreens, and apparently the ones who was giving the shots didn't actually give them the shots. They got shot with saline. I'm like, lucky for them. I don't remember where it said was that, Dana. What you talking about? The plane or the vaccine? I don't remember. No, I don't remember where the plane crashed. It didn't really crash, but it in the water. That I don't remember where it said that happened, but the mishap vaccines happened in North Carolina. I'll post it here if y'all see. Y'all probably see it on the news, but I'll post it here. Vaccines and the plane crash, so y'all can see. But anyway, the people that was supposedly had got the vaccines actually got saline shots. I'm like, whew, look, I look it up this way. That was a close call. You might really want to think this through. Give you one more chance, right? They were blessed. Thank you. That's exactly what me and my husband was like. There wasn't nothing but the Most High, because all these people having these, I'm just like, look, if y'all know, like I know, y'all better get y'all bodies together. Start fasting, cleaning them out, go to a plant-based diet. It was in your state, Christy. Look, people, I'm just like, whew. Yeah, North Carolina, the shots, yeah. But it's on the news. It was a Walgreens. Yeah, that was a Walgreens. Yeah, so I'm just like, that's what we said. They got a second chance to think this through, right? I'm like, whew. I'm like, all right. Well, y'all ain't got to tell me. I ain't never got a flu shot. We just don't do them. Like, we don't get sick like that for real. And now that we know when all this stuff was coming up, we all transitioned to plant-based anyway. Well, not everybody in the house completely transition all the way, but everybody getting there, so keep your body in good working order and feed it what it was designed to have, which is plant-based foods. We're herbivores, y'all. Our teeth even say so. All right. Carnivores have fangs to bite into flesh. We don't. Although our bodies can assimilate it, but after a while, it began that meat, it doesn't always pass, all of it doesn't always pass all the way through your system. It begins to putrefy in the colon, and you get years, especially if you eat meat daily all the time, because there's some people, they don't eat nothing but meat, potatoes all the time. But if you never do like a colon cleanse or anything to flush your body out at least once a year, if you eat it, I would preferably say once a quarter, at least 4 times a year. If you're doing that, just to kind of make sure everything is being pushed completely out, you get all those things backed up. And then next thing you know, they saying you got colon cancer or something like that. But now I will say 98% of the diseases that affect your health start by what we put in here, right? And just depending on how well you take care of or how bad you take care of your body throughout the year will determine where whatever disease you get or whatever thing that happened to your body, that will depend. Well, that will be the determining factor where it shows up in your body. Whether it's like a throat cancer, colon cancer, liver cancer, breast cancer, all that stuff. It's not hereditary, y'all. It's really not. Doctors ain't gonna tell you that because they don't get paid by telling you that, right? You can literally solve 98% of the diseases by fixing your diet, right? So be mindful of that. When we know better, we can do better, right? It takes some discipline, some training. Shalom, shalom. Yeah, Belinda Brown, maybe. Wish you had known. You got the shot, Christy. Blessed be the most holy if you did, and you still got all your stuff intact and ain't had no side effects, right? So blessed be the most holy for that. Linda K, hey girl, hey. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and get started, right? Jimmy, shalom. Today it is Sunday. It is Sunday, April the 18th, 2021. Guys, we are on day 131 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And today we hit another 100-day marker. It is day 800 of the 3-year consecutive day count of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. No. Oh, wait. What? You didn't get the shot, Christy? He said, no. Okay. I don't know. Tell me. I thought you said you said I wish I had known about the shot. But I just kind of assumed that meant you got the shot. So you didn't get the shot. You said no. Okay. Everybody, straight up from the record. I don't think Christy didn't get the shot, y'all. She didn't get the shot. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and start over here in 1 Kings. We're reading 1 Kings 22, 23, and 24. Then we'll hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. But first, we're going to do the Shema, which is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Remember, y'all, read it in context, the full thing. I'm not pulling it out of context, but you will see all the other things that's a part of this blessing and the Shema, right? Okay, hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do these commandments before Yahuah our God as he has commanded us. Okay. Okay, right. Okay. Christy corrected me. She didn't get the shot, y'all. All right. This vaccine is an operating system, not the previous type of vaccine. Actually says it on all of their websites. I don't doubt that one bit. I ain't really talked about it a lot because on my page I got kind of some people that's half is all in. We want to go get the shot. Some of us like, no, we ain't getting the shot. Who you think we are? Right? We ain't falling for that. But hey, everybody have to do their own due diligence and their research. You know, we personally, we're not getting it. Just based on how we decide we're going to take care of our bodies anyway. But yes, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of information out there. And anybody talk about it now, they try and put it out, try and help people post stuff. They're getting strikes against their YouTube pages or getting them shut down for a few days, getting strikes against Facebook, all that, you know. I don't really care either way. I'll put the information out so people can have it. But you gotta sometime when you do it, you gotta kind of code word some words that you use so the algorithms don't pick it up, right? Websites, you won't really get away with them too much. But you gotta learn how to. Do you need to delete your comment? No, I don't think so. No, you can leave your comment there. But it is there is some. I was looking at something yesterday. I didn't get a chance to finish watching it, about what's going on with it and some of the details. Some, I guess it's been out there, but it's some people that's bringing attention to certain portions of the information. I think people just kind of gloss over, you know. So, Shayla, you might have it. I think somebody posted in our family group. So. Okay. Oh, let me finish my comment I was saying earlier, because I think that's just a half comment that I said about doctors don't tell you that when I was saying most of the diseases, they're not hereditary. And I didn't finish my comment when I said that because some people may not know. The only reason why they say some diseases are hereditary, like breast cancer or different things like that, they ask you now that we know that most of the diseases that manifest in your body comes from what you feed your body, we realize that the only way you can pinpoint it to it being hereditary or passed down is by the household you live in and the habits that you had modeled before you, right? So a lot of time if we see overweight parents, we'll see overweight children. Why? Because those parents are feeding that child those same habits that that parent has. Tend to a lot of times, and not all the time, but most of the time, we'll see it passed down to the children, right? And so that's the only way diseases are passed down through the family is because of what you saw model, right? Now, when a child becomes of age and they realize, wait a minute, I don't want to go that route. I see how much trouble dad or mom or whoever's been having with their health because of what they've been eating. A lot of time we'll see that curse or whatever, or that them hereditary passed down or genetic diseases. We'll see that stop with the person who decides, hey, I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to change the way I eat, right? You know, so that's why I say I with full confidence I can say that stuff is not passed down. And when we go to get checkups, they ask about this. They say, if anybody in your family got breast cancer? I say, absolutely not. I don't tell them nothing because y'all ain't about to sit here and fill my mind with a bunch of garbage that I know is lies, right? Nope, we ain't got none of that running in our family. Nope. Because I know it's a choice on what we decide to put in our own bodies, right? And I know some of the things that some of my family members have experienced, right? That doesn't have to be my end. And you ain't gonna put that. You ain't put none of that into my charts, right? And neither will you put it in my children's charts. Nope, we do not. We do not. Nope. You will not misdiagnose anybody here. We know what to do, right? Yeah. All right, y'all. So let's get started. The reading today, we start with 1 Kings chapter 22. Yeah. Shalom Alachim. All right, y'all. Yeah, plant-based, kosher, best diet. Yep. Okay, y'all. 1 Kings chapter 22. Jehoshaphat and Ahab. For 3 years, there was no war between Aram and Israel. Then during the 3rd year, King Jehoshaphat of Judah went to visit King Ahab of Israel. During the visit, the king of Israel said to his officials, "Do you realize that the town of Ramoth Gilead belongs to us? And yet we've done nothing to recapture it from the king of Aram." Then he turned to Jehoshaphat and asked, "Will you join me in battle to recover Ramoth Gilead?" Jehoshaphat replied to the king of Israel, "Why, of course, you and I are as one. My troops are your troops and my horses are your horses." Then Jehoshaphat added, "But first, let's find out what Yahuah says." So the king of Israel summoned the prophets, about 400 of them, and asked them, "Should I go to war against Ramoth Gilead or should I hold back?" They all replied, "Yes, go right ahead. Yahuah will give the king victory." But Jehoshaphat asked, "Is there not also a prophet of Yahuah here? We should ask him the same question." Remember, we talk about this a lot, y'all, so we finally here. Remember, we're about to talk about Micaiah. King Ahab said, was it Ahab or Ahaz? Hold on. Ahab, yep. They said they called all the prophets. So remember, when you got a whole bunch of prophets call themselves prophets. I like to call them the guild of prophets or the company of prophets. We got a whole bunch of them, and it's a whole bunch of them saying the same exact thing. It's like, normally that doesn't happen, right? It's always someone who stands apart, right? And a lot of times it's that one who stands apart. As a matter of fact, when it's the big group, and let me say this, when it's a big group and they're giving a good word, a lot of time that should be the key to, wait a minute, hold on, something ain't right. Because prophets don't normally give good words, right? They give word, the prophets' only word when we see them come on the scene is stop your foolishness and repent and return to Yah, right? When you got a whole group of prophets that's giving you all these sweet, smooth sounding words and stuff, y'all might want to hold up. Like we seen that last year with the elections, right? But we talked about it, right? Wait a minute. Y'all, something is wrong here. All these prophets is saying this. Yep. If I know better, I think the current king time is up, which was the current president, right? A lot of people, oh no, we had dreams and this, and he get a second term. I'm like, yeah, something's wrong, y'all. And what happened? His time was up. We got a new ruling king upon the United States, right? Same thing. All right. So the king of Israel summoned the prophets, about 400 of them, and asked them, "Should I go to war against Ramoth Gilead or should I hold back?" They all replied, "Yes, go right ahead. Yahuah will give the king victory." But Jehoshaphat asked, "Is there not also a prophet of Yahuah here? We should ask him the same question." The king of Israel replied to Jehoshaphat, "There is one more man who could consult with Yahuah for us, but I hate him. He never prophesies anything but trouble for me. His name is Micaiah, the son of Imlah." Jehoshaphat replied, "That's not the way a king should talk. Let's hear what he has to say." So the king of Israel called one of his officials and said, "Quick, bring Micaiah, son of Imlah." King Ahab of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah, dressed in their royal robes, were sitting on their thrones at the threshing floor near the gate of Samaria. All of Ahab's prophets were prophesying there in front of them. One of them, Zedekiah, son of Kenah, made some iron horns and proclaimed, "This is what Yahuah says. With these horns, you will gore the Arameans to death." All the other prophets agreed. "Yes," they said, "go up to Ramoth Gilead and be victorious, for Yahuah will give the king victory." Meanwhile, the messenger who went to get Micaiah said to him, "Look, all the prophets are promising victory for the king. Be sure that you agree with them and promise success." But Micaiah replied, "As surely as Yahuah lives, I will only say what Yahuah tells me to say." When Micaiah arrived before the king, Ahab asked him, "Micaiah, should we go to war against Ramoth Gilead or should we hold back?" Micaiah replied sarcastically, "Yes, go up and be victorious, for Yahuah will give the king victory." But the king replied sharply, "How many times must I demand that you speak only the truth to me when you speak for Yahuah?" Then Micaiah told him, in a vision, I saw all of Israel scattered on the mountains, like sheep without a shepherd. And Yahuwah said, their master has been killed. Send them home in peace. Didn't I tell you? The king of Israel exclaimed to Jehoshaphat, he never prophesies anything but trouble for me. Then Micaiah continued, listen to what Yahuwah says. I saw Yahuwah sitting on his throne with all the armies of heaven around him, on his right hand and on his left. And Yahuwah said, who can entice Ahab to go into battle against Ramoth Gilead so he can be killed? Remember, this is Yahuwah speaking. He said, who can we get to entice King Ahab, right? King of Israel, one of my folk. Who can we get to entice him to go into war so he can be killed, right? Because his time was up, right? All these kings, you get more wicked with every new king you get, right? So your time is up. And Yahuwah said, who can entice Ahab to go into battle against Ramoth Gilead so he can be killed? There were many suggestions. And finally, a spirit approached Yahuwah and said, I can do it. How will you do this? Yahuwah asked. And the spirit replied, I will go out and inspire all of Ahab's prophets to speak lies. You will succeed, said Yahuwah. Go ahead and do it. Right? So a lot of people, when you think that Yahuwah would not allow prophets to prophesy lies, you are sadly mistaken, friends. You have to understand how Yahuwah acts, right? He uses everything for his desired outcome. And he will allow the prophets to prophesy lies, right? Let me read that again. And Yahuwah said this with his own lips. I'll go back. Then Micaiah continued, listen to what Yahuwah says. I saw Yahuwah sitting on the throne with all the armies of heaven around him, on his right and on his left. And Yahuwah said, who can entice Ahab to go into battle against Ramoth Gilead so he can be killed? There were many suggestions, and finally, a spirit approached Yahuwah and said, I can do it. How will you do this? Yahuwah asked. And the spirit replied, I will go out and inspire all of Ahab's prophets to speak lies. You will succeed, said Yahuwah. Go ahead and do it. So you see, Yahuwah has put a lying spirit in the mouths of all your prophets, for Yahuwah has pronounced your doom. Then Zedekiah, the son of Kenah, walked up to Micaiah and slapped him across the face. Since when did the spirit of Yahuwah leave me to speak to you? He demanded. Don't we say that all the time? People get a little salty. I'm a prophet too. How you gonna tell me? I'm just like, oh, all y'all is foolish. Let me get out of here. Right? Look. Then Zedekiah, son of Kenah, walked up to Micaiah and slapped him across the face. Since when did the spirit of Yahuwah leave me to speak to you? He demanded. And Micaiah replied, you will soon find out enough when you're trying to hide in someone's secret room. Arrest him, the king of Israel ordered. Take him back to Ammon, the governor of the city, and to my son Joash. Give them this order from the king. Put this man in prison and feed him nothing but bread and water until I return safely from the battle. But Micaiah replied, if you return safely, it will mean that Yahuwah has not spoken through me. Then he added the words, then he added to those words, hold on. But Micaiah replied, if you return safely, it would mean that Yahuwah has not spoken through me. Then he added to those standing around, everyone mark my words. So King Ahab of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah led their armies against Ramoth Gilead. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, as we go into battle, I will disguise myself so no one will recognize me, but you wear your royal robes, right? So you was a little scared because if you didn't believe what Micaiah just said, why you gonna go disguise yourself, right? See, they not crazy. They are really not crazy because when the word of Yah really hits you, it pierces your very inner being, deep down in your shanana, right down there in your spirit, and you know truth when you hear it. That's why he went and disguised himself, right? I'm gonna go dress in disguise, but y'all go ahead and wear y'all royal robes. I ain't dying. I'm coming back alive. So King Ahab of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah led their armies against Ramoth Gilead. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, as we go into battle, I will disguise myself so no one would recognize me. But you wear your royal robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went into battle. Meanwhile, the king of Aram had issued these orders to his 32 chariot commanders: attack only the king of Israel, like look for Ahab alone. Don't bother with anyone else. So when the Aramean chariot commander saw Jehoshaphat in his royal robes, they went after him. There's the king of Israel, they shouted. But when Jehoshaphat called out, the chariot commanders realized he was not the king of Israel, and they stopped chasing him. An Aramean soldier, however, randomly shot an arrow at the Israelite troops and hit the king of Israel between the joints of his armor. Turn the horses and get me out of here, Ahab groaned to the driver of his chariot. I am badly wounded. The battle raged all day, and the king remained propped up in his chariot, facing the Arameans. The blood from his wound ran down to the floor of his chariot, and as evening arrived, he died. Just as the sun was setting, the cry ran through his troops, "We're done for. Run for your lives." So the king died, and his body was taken to Samaria and buried there. Then his chariot was washed beside the pool of Samaria, and the dogs came and licked his blood at the place where the prostitutes bathed, just as Yahuah promised. So remember, Yahuah said, everybody in your family that died, the dogs of the field are going to lick up their blood, and those the ones that die in the field, the vultures will eat their corpses, right? No. They keep on. The prophets be trying to tell them, y'all don't want no smoke with him. Just go on here, repent, return, do what he said, do, right? Because we clearly see everything he said gonna happen, happens. Do you think you can beat his system? You want to try it? Okay, all right. If you make it back alive, that'll mean I'm a liar. The rest of the events in Ahab's reign and everything he did, including the story of the ivory palace and the towns he built, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. So Ahab died, and his son Ahaziah became the next king. Jehoshaphat, son of Asa, began to rule over Judah in the 4th year of King Ahab's reign in Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 35 years. His mother was Azubah, the daughter of Shilhi. Jehoshaphat was a good king. Following the example of his father Asa, he did what was pleasing in Yahuah's sight. During his reign, however, he failed to remove all the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. Jehoshaphat also made peace with the king of Israel. The rest of the events in Jehoshaphat's reign, the extent of his power, and the wars he waged are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. He banished from the land the rest of the male and female shrine prostitutes who still continued their practices from the days of his father Asa. There was no king in Edom at that time, only a deputy. Jehoshaphat also built a fleet of trading ships to sail to Ophir for gold, but the ships never set sail, for they met with disaster in their home port of Ezion-Geber. At one time, Ahaziah, son of Ahab, proposed to Jehoshaphat, "Let my man sail with your men in the ships," but Jehoshaphat refused the request. When Jehoshaphat died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son Jehoram became the next king. Ahaziah, son of Ahab, began to rule over Israel in the 17th year of King Jehoshaphat's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 2 years. He did what was evil in Yahuah's sight, following the example of his father and mother and the example of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who had led Israel to sin. He served Baal and worshipped him, provoking the anger of Yahuah, the God of Israel, just as his father had done. Ooh, that was a long chapter, y'all. It was only on the first one. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I said that wrong when we started. 1 Kings 22 was the last chapter, y'all, of 1 Kings. We start in 2 Kings, and we're going to read 1 and 2. Okay. So 2 Kings chapter 1. Elijah confronts King Ahaziah. After King Ahab's death, the land of Moab rebelled against Israel. One day, Israel's new king, Ahaziah, fell through the lattice work of an upper room at his palace in Samaria and was seriously injured. So he sent messengers to the temple of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether he would recover. But the angel of Yahuah told Elijah, who was from Tishbe, go and confront the messengers of the king of Samaria and ask them, is there no God in Israel? Why are you going to Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether the king will recover? Now, therefore, this is what Yahuah says. Never leave the bed you are lying on, you will surely die. So Elijah went to deliver the message. And that's something that we always, another thing that we pick up, we talked about this before, right? Anytime Israel gets in trouble, Yahuah said, call on him alone, right? Israel has been trained to call on everybody else, but yeah, they tell us to stay away from him. Don't even read the words he has spoken to us back in the manuscripts that they have wrongly named the Old Testament. By calling it the Old Testament and calling this new portion that they've added in recent history the New Testament, it automatically trains you to forget this, right? This is done away with. This is what we're supposed to be following. And it's I look at it, it's also a doorkeeper to keep you from back there, because by naming it that, it automatically, in most people's minds, it will kind of just like make it obsolete. And it really shouldn't be that. That's why I do my best not to call it that. I call it the books of instruction, or the books of the law and the prophets, right? That's what it truly is, because it is still living and active today. Guys, can y'all quiet down a little bit? Okay, I'll go back. But the angel of Yahuah told Elijah, who was from Tishbe, go and confront the messengers of the king of Samaria and ask them, is there no God in Israel? Why are you going to Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether the king will recover? Now, therefore, this is what Yahuah says, you will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die. So Elijah went to deliver the message. When the messengers returned to the king, he asked them, why have you returned so soon? They replied, a man came up to us and told us to go back to the king and give him this message. This is what Yahuah says. Is there no God in Israel? Why are you sending men to Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether you will recover? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on, and you will surely die. Hey, Tootie.
This is frozen.
Yes, it's frozen. You gotta wait a minute, right? It was in the deep freezer all night.
Deep freeze? It should have been in here.
It should have been, right?
Nobody puts that in the deep freezer.
Well, go have that conversation with Dad. Dad put it in the deep freezer. Go show. I don't want any Tootie. Thank you. Go tell Dad it's frozen. He already knows it. Okay. And they replied, a man came up to us and told us to go back to the king and give him this message. This is what Yahuah says. Is there no God in Israel? Why are you sending men to Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether you will recover? Therefore, chill. Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die. What sort of man was he? The king demanded. What did he look like? They replied, he was a hairy man, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. Elijah from Tishbe, the king exclaimed. Then he sent an army captain with 50 soldiers to arrest him. They found him sitting at the top of a hill. Bella, chill. Then he sent an army captain with 50 soldiers to arrest him. They found him sitting at the top of a hill. The captain said to him, man of Yah, the king has commanded you to come down with us. But Elijah replied to the captain, if I am a man of Yah, let fire come down from heaven and destroy you and your 50 men. Then fire fell from heaven and killed them all. So the king sent another captain with 50 men. The captain said to him, man of Yah, the king demands that you come down at once. Elijah replied, if I am a man of Yah, let fire come down from heaven and destroy you and your 50 men. And again, fire of Yah fell from heaven and killed them all. Once more, the king sent a third captain with 50 men. But this time, The king went up the hill and fell to his knees before Elijah. He pleaded with him, "O man of Yah, please spare my life and the lives of these, your 50 servants. See how the fire from heaven came down and destroyed the first two groups, but now please spare my life." Then the angel of Yahuwah said to Elijah, "Go down with him. Don't be afraid of him." So Elijah got up and went with him to the king. And Elijah said to the king, "This is what Yahuwah says. Why did you send messengers to Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether you will recover? Is there no God in Israel to answer your question? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die." So Ahaziah died, just as Yahuwah promised through Elijah. Since Ahaziah did not have a son to succeed him, his brother Joram became the next king. This took place in the second year of the reign of Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. The rest of the events in Ahaziah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Now, how many of us could y'all trust with that type of power, knowing, first of all, y'all gonna do nothing to me, right? Because I know who got my back 24/7, right? If I be a man of Yah, let fire fall down from heaven. Like, look, let me tell y'all something. If Israel would turn their affections back to the God that Elijah worshiped, the most holy one of Israel, right? The only living God. Like, we ain't got to be out here marching in the streets proclaiming that Black Lives Matter. The entire world would immediately know that our lives matter, right? When Yahuwah stand behind us. If we be the children of the Most High, and since you won't put them in jail, let fire come down and consume them for the atrocities they have committed to Yahuwah's people. What? Something got to happen. Something got to happen to wake the nations up, right? To bring them to their senses. And that's what Yahuwah says. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we surely know that the nations are going to come to their senses, right? Wait, why was Aliyah afraid of flesh when he was a Malaki himself? You got to look at it all. He was in the flesh, right? I think when I look at it, because I thought about that too, right? You got to think about it. You know how, let me see, make sure I word this the right way. Turn the water off, Isaiah. I'm trying to think of an example. Let me think about this one. Let me think about how to word this the right way, Aliyah. Let me finish reading. Okay, last chapter for today, 2 Kings chapter 2. When Yahuwah was about to take Elijah up to heaven in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were traveling from Gilgal. And Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for Yahuwah has told me to go to Bethel." But Elisha replied, "As surely as Yahuwah lives, and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went down together to Bethel. The group of prophets from Bethel came to Elijah and asked him, "Did you know that Yahuwah is going to take away your master from you today?" "Of course I know," Elisha answered, "but be quiet about it." Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for Yahuwah has told me to go to Jericho." But Elisha replied again, "As surely as Yahuwah lives and you live yourself, I will never leave you." So they went on together to Jericho. And then the group of prophets from Jericho came to Elisha and asked him, "Did you know that Yahuwah is going to take your master away from you today?" "Of course I know," Elisha answered, "but be quiet about it." Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for Yahuwah has told me to go to the Jordan River." But again, Elisha replied, "As surely as Yahuwah lives and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went on together. 50 men from the group of prophets also went and watched from a distance as Elijah and Elisha stopped beside the river Jordan. Then Elijah folded his cloak together and struck the water with it. The water divided, and the two of them went across on dry ground. So this is the second time we saw that the Sea of Reeds, they parted when Israel crossed, but Elijah just parted the Jordan River, right? And we know that Elisha is going to part it again when he comes to walk back, right? Then Elisha folded his cloak together and struck the water with it. the river divided, and the two of them went across on dry ground. When they came to the other side, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me what I can do for you before I am taken away." And Elisha replied, "Please let me inherit a double share of your spirit and become your successor." "You have asked a difficult thing," Elijah replied. "If you see me when I am taken from you, then you will get your request. But if not, then you won't." As they were walking along and talking, suddenly a chariot of fire appeared, drawn by horses of fire. It drove between the two men, separating them, and Elijah was carried by a whirlwind into heaven. Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, I see the chariots and the charioteers of Israel." And as they disappeared from sight, Elisha tore his clothes in distress. Hey, chill. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, which had fallen when he was taken. Then Elijah returned to the bank of the Jordan River. He struck the water with Elijah's cloak and cried out, "Where is Yahuah, the God of Elijah?" Then the river divided, and Elisha went across. When the group of prophets from Jericho saw from a distance what had happened, they exclaimed, "Elijah's spirit." Stop.
That didn't really work, and she just wanted to scoop stuff out.
Wasn't that what you just did?
I was the one who had the knife and making it unmelt.
Okay, well, go over there and help her make it unmelt.
We need it in the sun.
And I think you want it to melt, not unmelt.
Bella, we need to put it in the sun to make it melt.
Babe! Y'all gotta go upstairs. Come on, put it back over there. Take that, put that back over there, Isaiah.
It melts.
Put it back on the counter. Don't sit in front of the sun.
That's how it melts.
You got 2 seconds to move it. Thank you. Sorry, y'all.
Mommy.
Wait, I'm sorry, y'all. Let me hurry up and finish with this. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, which had fallen when he was taken up. Then Elisha returned to the bank of the Jordan River. He struck the water with Elijah's cloak and cried out, "Where is Yahuah, the God of Elijah?" Then the river divided, and Elisha went across. When the group of prophets from Jericho saw from a distance what happened, they exclaimed, "Elijah's spirit rest upon Elisha." And they went to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. "Sir," they said, "just a word, and 50 of our strongest men will search the wilderness for your master. Perhaps the spirit of Yahuah has left him on some mountain or in some valley." "No," Elisha said, "don't send them." But they kept urging him until they shamed him into agreeing, and he finally said, "All right, send them." So 50 men searched for 3 days, but did not find Elijah. Elisha was still at Jericho when they returned. "Didn't I tell you not to go?" he asked. And so they all knew this about Elijah. They knew that Yahuah was in the habit of picking him up and like transporting him or translating him to different places, right? The spirit of Yahuah was completely active, like more active than what we see a lot of times when we read the New Testament, although it's things that happen. But the way it's taught is like there was no spirit there until the New Testament, which is an absolute fabrication, and is being taught by people who are playing on the ignorance of the people who are there teaching, right? Almost assuming that you're not going to go back and check what they said, right? Because when you go back and check, you see that when they go back and check it, you will see that Yahuah's spirit was constantly being poured out on his people. Especially you see it a lot in the prophets and with all the miracles that were happening back there. Like some people don't even know that there were miracles that happened back there. Yahuah was constantly doing miracles for Israel, right? All the time. So, but with this right here, and I know some people bring up, and we talked about it a little bit, maybe last week, about with the chariots that took Elijah up. The whole point why Elisha got to see the chariots take Elijah up is because of his request. And Yahuah granted his request. Elijah said, if you see, because what Elisha really wanted was a double portion of the anointing that Elijah had. And he knew that his master was going to be taken. He knew, right? He said, so, okay, if you got to go, you're not going to be here on the earth with us anymore. This power needs to stay with us, right? So pray, let me have a double portion of what you have, right? Because I am not you. I've been your protege all this time, but I'm going to need a double portion for Yahuwah's power to keep flowing through here. So when you go, leave a double portion, right? And so when the chariots descended to pick up Elijah, they split. They came right between the middle of Elijah and Elisha. And if we read the other manuscripts like we read before, the chariots actually came to get Elijah before this time they actually got him. But Elijah and Elisha was so engrossed in conversation that they completely paid no attention to the chariots that was there to get Elijah. The chariots went back to y'all, like, listen, we couldn't get his attention. Him and Elisha are down there having a deep conversation about Torah and future things and all that stuff. He says, so what you want me to do? Y'all said, go back and get him, please. Go get him. And so this time when the chariots came, they drove a wedge between Elijah and Elisha to part them, to break up their conversation. Like they were right here talking. You know how you all up close, man, let me tell you what else. And then somebody comes and drive a wedge. Excuse me, 1 second, please. Yo, bro, it's time to go. I've been here before. I couldn't even get your attention. Let's go, my G. Oh, okay, it's time to go. Leave my cloak because he asked for a double portion of my anointing. Go ahead and leave this on the ground for him. He can see you. Look at him. Look at his face. He is in utter shock that he can see y'all right now. But this is letting him know that Yahuwah has granted his request to get a double portion of this anointing that's resting on me. Let's roll. Leave the cloak. We out. Right? So that's what happened. In a nutshell. Thailand, hey girl, hey. So the whole point of Elisha actually being able to see what happened is to let him know that Yahuwah had granted his request and that he would now too walk with Elisha, right? So he picked up the cloak. This God that Elijah served, where are you? Took that cloak, spanked that water. The elements obeyed, parted, and he walked through on dry ground. And you got the company of prophets sitting in the back like, yo, why don't this stuff happen for us? So y'all got to be careful watching them guild of prophets, them big group together all the time, right? Yahuwah pulls his prophets to the side and talk to them one-on-one, right? Okay. One day, the leaders of the town of Jericho visited Elisha. We have a problem, my lord, they told him. This town is located in pleasant surroundings, as you can see, but the water is bad and the land is unproductive. Elisha said, bring me a new bowl with salt in it. So they brought it to him. Then he went out to the spring and supplied the town with water and threw salt into it. Then he said, this is what Yahuwah says. I have purified this water. It will no longer cause death or infertility. And the water has remained pure ever since, just as Elisha said. Elisha left Jericho and went up to Bethel. And as he was walking along the road, a group of boys from the town began mocking, making fun of him. Go away, baldy. Or if you read in the King James Version, it says, go up, ye bald head, right? Go away, baldy, they chanted. Go away, baldy. Elisha turned around and looked at them, and he cursed them in the name of Yah. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of them. From there, Elisha went to Mount Carmel and finally returned to Samaria. Now, we also know that this happened when we read from Legends of the Jews a little bit more. It gives a little bit more of this detail. We know that Elisha had a pretty bad temper, right? And so we know that although he used the name of Yah and caused this to happen, they was in the wrong, right? Remember, but Yahuwah doesn't desire that the wicked die, right? And so Yahuwah, although he allowed this to happen, he allowed Elisha to do this, he wasn't really too pleased about it, right? So what happened was Elisha actually got sick. And he got sick, and it goes on to tell us how Yahuwah, he chastises his people a lot of times with sickness. And it goes into detail, whatever, but Elisha had to bring his temper under control, because you cannot walk in the earth and Yahuwah entrust you with the powers, literally with the powers of creation, heaven and earth, and knowing you have these powers, you can't allow your anger to get the best of you, right? Because people in power that haven't controlled their anger become tyrants and vagabonds. And so that's what Yahuwah was trying to teach him. And he kind of failed that test twice, right? He was trying to get it under control. And Yahuwah was like, come on, man, look, I can't let you do this, because this how the kings and stuff, they get in trouble. He tried to keep his prophets on the road. So when it comes to your flesh being in trouble, it's like, oh, let me think about what I did. Hold on, Father, if you would just take this sickness away, please. I promise I never do it again. Like, sickness and pain has a way of bringing us to our knees and humbling us, right? And Yahuah knows how much to turn it up on you before he can get your attention, right? Okay, let's start this over. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, nope. I'm gonna pray for you, bro. Father, listen. Okay, so before I let my anger get the best of me, what you want me to do? Right? You want me to just say this? Do you want me to say it with attitude? Like, how should I? Okay, what if they don't listen? What if they do something? Let's go to the extreme measures. How do you want me to react? Oh, just walk away, shake the dust off my feet, just walk away, go about my business? Okay, you gonna have to help me. I'm gonna try and do this. So just, okay. All right. If you come back alive, I'm not a man of God, right? So they gotta learn how to rein it in, allow Yah to control it. Which brings us back to the question, Aliyah, right? About Elijah. Why? Because remember, here's how I look at it. We're still under the direct orders of Yah. And what we do a lot of times when we see the miracles being performed is at the direction of Yah, right? So before the prophets go out and do something, Yahuah has already given them a go ahead, or they ask Yah, and yes, go ahead, do this, but do it this way, here. So I wouldn't doubt Jezebel was constantly doing stuff to piss Elijah off, right? And so sometimes he had to refrain himself from wanting to go in on her. Remember, she was vicious, right? She said, "Oh, you know what? Wait, what did she say?" She said, but anyway, she told Elijah, "Oh, you killed my prophets by this time tomorrow. You're going to be just like one of them," right? So think about how vicious women can be sometimes, right? Although women can be vicious on a whole nother level, right? And so also you have to realize Jezebel, when they are worshiping false gods, I want to make sure y'all understand this, right? Although Yahuah says that these gods are deaf, dumb, they are no gods at all, which they are not. Remember, a lot of these false gods, just think about some of the things that was happening with the statue, how it was able to talk because they misappropriated Yahuah's name, and they either use like the talismans or the amulets of the priests, and they put it into the mouths of their false gods, which kind of brought them to life, but not really. It was really like let's just use what we use today. Demon spirits actually operating behind it, where it looked like it's alive. Well, what you mean it's not a god? This thing is talking. What statue talks, right? So they had these type of things going on with the gods that they worship, right? So like today, for real, like people today, well, in some places, because some of them like are alive, but they're not alive, so to speak. It's actually magic happening. Let's use the word magic happening in the background that make these things seem to be alive, or something is going on, right? So you're saying this is a false god, but it's doing this. Think about some of these things that they've had happen in Catholicism, where they got a statue of Mary crying tears or something like that, and people are going looking up at how how is this even happening, right? So they got these false signs and wonders happening with statues, which furthermore, it furthermore capture the minds of people to make them think, to believe this lie that this really is alive when it's really not. So you got to be mindful. All these things was happening in the background. So with Jezebel, they was doing all of this stuff, right? And so with Elijah, although he was a malachim, or an angel, while he was here in the flesh, he is still subject to the rules of the flesh until Yahuah gives him the go ahead to do something, right? So he was like, I ain't fooling with Jezebel. I'm getting out of here, because this really might be the day that I go, right? Although you would think Yah is always behind you. Why are you afraid? Why are you running? I just look at it. He was subject to the same passions that we are, right? You're in the flesh. She possibly could come take your head. So remember, when he took off running, he was running to Yah, right? He was running to Sinai, to Yahuwah's mountain. That's where he was going, right? So he was running to Yah. He said, Elijah, what are you doing here? He said, listen, Jezebel is after me, and Yahuwah pretty much had to calm him down. He said, listen, Jezebel, I'm just kind of summing it up. Jezebel's not going to do anything to you. Go on, get back out there and do what I told you to do, right? So I think that's why, how sometimes I look at it like Yahuwah say, maybe Yahuwah give you something to do, right? When you got moments you come out of prayer, fasting, you good, let's go do this. And yeah. Then sometimes you're met with resistance sometime, and it calls you to second guess, did y'all really tell me to do this? I think it was one of those type of moments that Elijah, you get it? I think it was one of those, he was just having a moment, right? And he was like, I can't do this, y'all. I'm coming home, right? Just take me now, right? And so just to kind of sum it all up with all that, Elijah was just having a moment, like we all do, right? Okay. Do I study the Kabbalah? No. I don't study the Kabbalah, although I know about the Kabbalah and what they do. I know about it, but do I study it like as in practicing it? No, but I do. I do know what it is. I know what they do. I know some of the let's say some of the rituals and the magic that they use, and some of the shenanigans that they pull over people's eyes and stuff. I know about all that. Yes. So, but when you say study, I just want to make sure I answer that appropriately. Like, I don't study it to do it, but I study it to understand it, so I know what's going on and all the shenanigans that's happening. So in the course of my study, it's we read about that here in the Legends of the Jews. He was bringing that up. You may not have been here for that portion when we were reading over that. Yeah. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying. There's some other stuff in there about some of the people in here too. I ain't really brought that stuff up because I don't want to get people off into that. They might start looking at the wrong stuff. We're just trying to bring out the points, so. Okay, y'all. So let's hop on over here. Where we at? What time we at? I'm over here chatting on. We ain't even brought up our what y'all today. Oh, we might only be able to read one section today, y'all. I'm over here talking like we already read this. Okay, we started chapter 12 today, y'all, with Esther. So we'll just read this. Okay. So we're gonna read this the first section of chapter 12. We'll start with Queen Esther. Move this over here. Okay. Chapter 12, Esther, the feast for the grandees. The book of Esther is the last of the scriptural writings. The subsequent history of Israel and all his suffering we know only through oral tradition. For this reason, the heroine of the last canonical book was named Esther. For this reason, the heroine of the last canonical book was named Esther. That is, Venus, the morning star, which shed its light after all the other stars have ceased to shine, and while the sun still delays to rise. Thus, the deeds of Queen Esther cast a ray of light forward into Israel's history at its darkest. The Jews at the time of Ahasuerus were like the dove about to enter her nest, wherein a snake lies coiled. Hey, chill, y'all. Yet she cannot withdraw because a falcon bites without to swoop down upon her. In Shushan, the Hebrews were in the clutches of Haman, and in other lands they were at the mercy of many murderous enemies to their race, ready to do the bidding of Haman to destroy and slay them and cause them to perish. But the rescue of the Hebrews from the hand of their adversary is only a part of this wonderful chapter in the history of Israel. No less important is the exalted station to which they rose in the realm of Ahasuerus after the fall of Haman, especially the power and dignity to which Esther herself attained. On this account, the magnificent feast prepared by Ahasuerus for his subjects belongs to the history of Esther. The splendor of this feast is the gauge whereby to measure the wealth and power she later enjoyed. Ahasuerus was not the king of Persia by right of birth. He owed his position to his vast wealth, which he purchased dominion over the whole world. He had various reasons for giving a gorgeous feast. The third year of his reign was the 70th since the beginning of Nebuchadnezzar's rule, and Ahasuerus thought it quite certain that the time had passed for the fulfillment of prophecy of Jeremiah foretelling the return of Israel to the Holy Land. The temple was still in ruins, and Ahasuerus was convinced that the Hebrew kingdom would never again be restored. Needless to say, it was not Jeremiah who erred. Not with the accession of King Nebuchadnezzar had the prophet's term of years begun, but with the destruction of Jerusalem. Reckoned in this way, the 70 years of desolation were at an end exactly at the time when Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, permitted the rebuilding of the temple. Beside this mistaken cause for celebration, there were reasons personal to Ahasuerus why he desired to give expression to joy. A short time before, he had crushed a rebellion against himself, and this victory he wanted to celebrate with pomp and ceremony. The first part of the celebration was given over to the 127 rulers of the 127 provinces of his empire. His purpose was to win the devotion of those of them with whom otherwise he did not come into direct contact. But can it be said with certainty that this was a good policy? If he had not first made sure of the loyalty of his capital, was it not dangerous to have these rulers near him in case of an insurrection? For 6 whole months, he celebrated the feast for the grandees and the nobles and high officials, the latter of whom, according to the constitution, were all required to be Medians under the Persian king Ahasuerus, as they would have to be Persians under a Median king. This was the program of the feast. In the first month, Ahasuerus showed his treasures to his guests. In the second, the delegates of the king's royal vassals saw him. In the third, the presents were exposed to view. In the fourth, the guests were invited to admire his literary possessions, among them the sacred scroll. In the fifth, his pearl and diamond-studded ornaments of gold were put on exhibition. And in the sixth, he displayed the treasures which had been given to him as tribute. All this vast wealth, however, appertained to the crown. It was not his personal property. When Nebuchadnezzar felt his end draw nigh, he resolved to sink his immense treasures in the Euphrates rather than ascend. That's selfish. Look. When Nebuchadnezzar felt his end draw nigh, he resolved to sink his immense treasures in the Euphrates rather than let them ascend to his son Evil-Merodach. So great was his miserliness. But again, when Cyrus gave the Hebrews permission to build the temple, his divinely appointed reward was that he discovered the spot in the river at which the treasures were sunk, and he was permitted to take possession of them. These were the treasures of which Ahasuerus availed himself to glorify his feast. So prodigious were they that during the 6 months of the feast, he unlocked 6 treasure chambers daily to display their contents to his guests. When Ahasuerus boasted of his wealth, which he had no right to do, as his treasures had come from the temple, Yahuah said, "Verily has the creature of flesh and blood any possessions of his own? I alone possess treasure, for the silver is mine and the gold is mine." Among the treasures displayed were the temple vessels, which Ahasuerus had desecrated in his drinking bouts. When the noble Hebrews who had been invited to the capital saw these, they began to weep, and they refused to take further part in the festivities. Thereupon the king commanded that a separate place be assigned to the Hebrews, so that their eyes might be spared the painful sight. This was not the only incident that aroused poignant memories in them. For Ahasuerus arrayed himself in the robes of state once belonging to the high priest at Jerusalem, and this too made the Hebrews smart uncomfortable. Okay. And this too made the Hebrews smart uncomfortably. The Persian king had wanted to mount the throne of Solomon besides, but herein he was thwarted because of its ingenious construction was an enigma to him. So we already know anybody that tried to ascend that throne that Solomon built, they end up getting hurt really bad, or they end up getting like paralyzed, or they died. There's no way to do it, right? Egyptian artificers tried to fashion a throne after the model of Solomon, but in vain. After 2 years' work, they managed to produce a weak imitation of it, and upon this, Ahasuerus sat during his splendid feast. And that was the end of this little section, y'all. Okay, so we're going to end this right here, and tomorrow we'll pick it up with the festivities in Shushan. I mean, I guess I could have read another. It's Sunday, right? We'll end it right here, though, because we already at an hour and 5 minutes. We'll end it right here. We'll pick this up tomorrow. I'll put my date up here. I keep dropping my stuff. Hold on. 491. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Might as well just stand up. I ain't got much power anyway. Okay, y'all. Look at my page. Okay, so we read 1 Kings 22, which was the last chapter of 1 Kings, and we read 2 Kings chapter 1 and chapter 2. Then we hopped over to the Legends of the Jews, and we read the first section of chapter 12 on page 488 to page 490, and we'll pick it up tomorrow there. We should be good for one more. Y'all want to read one more? Shayla said tomorrow is the Sabbath. We should be good for one more. Y'all want to read one more section? Y'all let me know. I'll let y'all choose. Y'all want me to read one more section? Shayla said yes over here on YouTube. What about Facebook? If 3 more people say yes, I'll read the next section. What y'all think? I'll let y'all choose today. Class, y'all choose. Y'all know how y'all teacher let y'all choose today. Y'all want to watch a movie today? Y'all want to watch a movie today? Every time we seen that projector come out of her roll that big block TV in on a TV stand. Yes. Okay. Okay, we'll read another one. Okay, everybody saying yes. Okay. All right, y'all. Let me go back to my page. Okay. We'll read one more second. Okay. Okay, the festivities in Shushan. Okay, let me put my chill back up there. Okay. Okay, so 490, the festivities in Shushan. At the expiration of the 180 days allotted to the feast for the nobles, Ahasuerus arranged a great celebration for the residents of Shushan, the capital of Elam. From the creation of the world until after the deluge, the unwritten law had been enforced that the firstborn son of the patriarchs was to be the ruler of the world. Thus, Seth was the successor to Adam, and he was followed in turn by Enosh. So the succession went on from the firstborn son to the firstborn son down to Noah and to his oldest son Shem. Now, the firstborn son of Shem was Elam, and according to custom, he should have been given the universal dominion, which was his heritage. Shem, being a prophet, knew that Abraham and his posterity, the Israelites, would not spring from the family of Elam, but from that of Arpachshad. Therefore, he named Arpachshad as his successor, and through him rulership descended to Abraham, and so to Isaac, Jacob, and Judah, and to David and to his posterity, down to the last Judean king, Zedekiah, who was deprived of his sovereignty by Nebuchadnezzar. And then it was that Yahuah spake So long as the government rested in the hands of my children, I was prepared to exercise patience. The misdeeds of the one were made good by the other. If one of them was wicked, the other was pious. But now that the dominions have been wrested from my children, it shall at least revert to its original possessors. Elam was the firstborn son of Shem, and his seed shall be given the rule. So it happened that Shushan, the capital city of Elam, became the seat of government. That there were any celebrations in Shushan was due to Haman, who even in those early days was devising intrigues against the Hebrews. He appeared before Ahasuerus and said, O king, this people is a peculiar people. May it please thee to destroy it. Ahasuerus replied, I fear the God of this people. He is very mighty, and I bear in mind what befell Pharaoh for his wicked treatment of the Israelites. Their God, said Haman, hates an unchaste life. Do thou therefore prepare feasts for them and order them to take part in merrymakings. Have them eat and drink, and as their hearts desire. Have them eat and drink and act as their heart desireth, so that their God may become wrathful against them. And if y'all haven't seen that they are still doing this today to Yahuwah's people, they know as long as we are breaking those commands, Yahuwah is going to stand back, right? And so what did they do? Oh, get the most beautiful and the most sexy of them, put them on the screen, put them in all kind of BET videos, make them shake that booty, show all that, the cleavage, the buttocks, everything. Matter of fact, make them all completely naked now. Put all of this before their face. Every commercial, let alcohol be in there. Oh, this is good. We can't have a show where nobody's not toasting, pouring out something for the homies. Keep it before their face, right? So let them think that this is cool. We can indulge in this all the time, right? And as they constantly keep us in that cycle, our hearts become merry and we begin to indulge into the thing, every little thing that our hearts desire, right? Thereby keeping Yahuwah standing aloof from his people, right? Ain't nothing different. Nothing has changed, y'all. Listen, I'm going to read this again. Look. That there were any celebrations in Shushan was due to Haman, who even in those early days was devising intrigues against the Hebrews. He appeared before Ahasuerus and said, O king, this people is a peculiar people. May it please thee to destroy it. Ahasuerus replied, I fear the God of this people. He is very mighty, and I bear in mind what befell Pharaoh for his wicked treatment of the Israelites. Their God, said Haman, hates an unchaste life. Do thou, therefore, prepare a feast for them. Like, look, we ain't going to treat them wrong, but we're just going to set the scene for them to partake in and get them own selves in trouble. But they still a part of they're causing all this stuff to happen. Why people just, I ain't going to say they're ignorant, because people know better, right? We know better. But sometimes you get carried away in the moment, feeling good, and next thing you know, oops, I done did it again. What I said I would never do, I done did it again, right? They know what they're doing. They're setting it up because they know, sometimes they know the Hebrew men, they can't resist a beautiful woman, right? They know. They know the men love women, and the women that they know all. They've had so long to study us and study how to keep themselves out of trouble, so to speak, by not actually doing it themselves, but causing us to do it to ourselves. We'll just set this on this corner here, put one in every neighborhood. Okay. Yeah, put a clinic over there too. Just put them everywhere. So they got free access. Matter of fact, make it free for them. They can go in, they can do abortions, let them do it themselves. But we'll just put it there, and that way, if they get themselves in trouble, they can go do it to themselves, right? Look. Ahasuerus replied, I fear the God of this people. He is very mighty, and I bear in mind what befell Pharaoh for his wicked treatment of the Israelites. Their God, Haman said, hates an unchaste life. Do thou, therefore, prepare feasts for them and order them to take part in the merrymakings. Have them eat and drink and act as their heart desireth, so that their God may become wrathful against them. When Mordecai heard of the feasts that were planned, he advised the Hebrews not to join in them. Like, don't do this. Don't even go. Keep your eyes closed. Don't even go that way. Y'all don't get taken. They setting y'all up. Right. When Mordecai heard of the feasts that were planned, he advised the Hebrews not to join in them. All the prominent men of his people and many of the lower classes took his advice to heart. They fled from Shushan to avoid being compelled to take part in the festivities. Like, don't even put yourself around it. Like, you think you're stronger than them? You go hang out with them if you want to. You're gonna find yourself caught up right in the midst of them, right? You're gonna join into the revelry. The rest remained in the city and yielded to force. They participated in the celebrations and even permitted themselves to eat of food prepared by the heathen, though the king had taken care not to offend the religious conscience of the Hebrews in such details. He had been so punctilious, I think I said it right, punctilious, that there was no need for them to drink wine touched by the hand of an idolater, let alone eat forbidden food. The arrangements for the feast were entirely in the charge of Haman and Mordecai, so that neither Hebrew nor Gentile might absent himself for religious reasons. So, you only eat plant-based food? We got that. We got the best plant-based food, right? Get you on up in here and get this, right? They pull you in with what they know you like. Oh, no, that's going to cause me to desecrate my vow. Oh, no, nobody has to desecrate their vow. You worship this God, so this is everything that you eat that's clean and holy for you to eat. We got that here. Everything that you say you can eat, we got that over here. Same thing like they do with the mixing of the religions. Like Christianity is a big mix up of all the religions. We got something for everybody, right? It was the aim of the king to let every guest follow the inclination of his heart. When Ahasuerus issued the order that the officers of his house were to do according to every man's pleasure, Yahuah became wroth with him. Thou villain, he said, canst thou do every man's pleasure? Suppose two men love the same woman. Can both marry her? Two vessels sail forth together from a port, and one desireth a south wind and the other a north wind. Can thou produce a wind to satisfy the two? On the morrow, Haman and Mordecai will appear before thee. Wilt thou be able to side with both? The scene of the festivities was in the royal gardens. The upper branches of the high trees were made to interlace with each other so as to form vaulted arches, and the smaller trees with aromatic foliage were taken up out of the ground and placed in artfully constructed tents. From tree to tree stretched curtains of byssus, white and sapphire blue, and vivid green and royal purple, fastened to their supports by ropes depending from round silver beams, these in turn resting on pillars of red, green, yellow, white, and glittering blue marble. The couches were made of delicate draperies. The frames stood on silver feet, and the rods attached to them were of gold. The floor was tiled with crystal and marble, outlined with precious stones, whose brilliance illuminated the scene far and wide. The wine and other beverages were drunk only from golden vessels, yet Ahasuerus was so rich that no drinking cup was used more than a single time. The magnificence as these utensils of his were, when the holy vessels of the temple were brought in, the golden splendor of the others was dim. It turned dull as lead. The wine was in each case older than its drinker. Okay. All right. You put the other one in there for the personal?
Yeah. I got another one in the truck. I'm about to go drop it back too.
Okay, sweet.
You got a pen anywhere?
In the truck?
No, you got a pen over there with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me use your pen. You need it? Do you need it?
Mm-mm. I mean, I got many more pens.
You funny. I mean, do you need it right now?
You can take it with you, babe.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. The wine and the other beverages were drunk only from golden vessels, yet Ahasuerus was so rich that no drinking cup was used more than a single time. But magnificent as these utensils of his were, when the holy vessels of the temple were brought in, the golden splendor of the others was dim. It turned dull as lead. The wine was in each case older than its drinker. To prevent intoxication from unaccustomed drinks, every guest was served with a wine indigenous to his native place. In general, Ahasuerus followed the Hebrew rather than the Persian manner. It was a banquet rather than a drinking bout. In Persia, a custom prevailed that every participant in a banquet of wine had to drain a huge beaker far exceeding the drinking capacity of any human being, and do it he must, though he lost reason and life. Sheesh. Some people still do that, right? Chug, 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 chug. Like, this is insane, right? This is going to take your life, but you got to do it. You got chug, 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 chug. I'm like, y'all have no common sense, right? Look, in Persia, a custom prevailed that every participant in a banquet of wine had to drink a huge beaker far exceeding the drinking capacity of any human being, and do it he must, though he lost reason and life. The office butler, accordingly, was very lucrative because the guests at such wassels were in the habit of bribing him to purchase the liberty of drinking as little as they pleased or dared. This Persian habit of compelling excess in drinking was ignored at Ahasuerus' banquet. Every guest did as he chose. The royal bounty did not show itself in food and drink alone. The king's guests could also indulge in pleasures of the dance if they were so minded. Dancers were provided who charmed the company with their artistic figures displayed upon the purple covered floor, that the enjoyment of the participants might in no wise be marred, as by separation from their families, all were permitted to bring their households with them, and merchants were released from the taxes imposed upon them. So sure was Ahasuerus of his success as a host that he dared say to his Hebrew guests, Will your God be able to match this banquet in a future world? Whereunto the Hebrews replied, The banquet of Yahuah will prepare. The banquet Yahuah will prepare for the righteous in the world to come is that of which it is written, No eye hath seen but Yahuwah's. He will accomplish it for them that wait upon him. If Yahuwah were to offer us a banquet like unto thine, O King, we should say, such as this we ate at the table of Ahasuerus. And so we're going to stop here. College life. Look, okay, so tomorrow we'll pick up with Vashti's banquet, right? You know, the queen that he banished, and Queen Esther or Hadassah got to take her place. So we're going to go into the details of this tomorrow. Like all the rest of this, like I said, all the rest of this that we're reading, and we'll be completely done with this in about a week, is all about the details that they pulled out of the book of Esther, y'all. Okay. So let's end this again. We read 1 Kings, the last chapter, chapter 22. Then we started in the book of 2 Kings, and we read chapter 1 and 2, and we read Legends of the Jews, page 488 to page 491. Y'all, it is Sunday. Happy Sunday. April the 18th, 2021, day 131 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count. Y'all, we have reached the 800-day marker. Today is day 800 of the 3-year consecutive day count of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, but that is without the Sabbath days added into the count, or the feast day Sabbath days added into the count, because we rest on those days as Yahuwah has commanded us. Tomorrow, Talain, is the Sabbath. You got some people doing it Tuesday, right? I ain't arguing with people, because some people, the ones that, remember we talked about this the other day. Some people doing it, they're doing it on the timeline that Jerusalem is celebrating it. The ones that's, first of all, let's praise the most holy that first of all, they're realizing that the Sabbaths are lining up with new moons, right? In the months. First of all, let's just praise y'all for them transitioning and realizing that, right? Look, that's still too bright. So Yahuah's people is waking up and they're learning. As they're learning, they're transition. They may not transition right into the right part, but blessed be the most holy that they're listening and they're trying to line up. Everybody's trying to find their way, right? Everybody's trying to find their way to the ancient path, to the path where Yahuah said, this is the way. Walk in it, right? And so people, they moving. So blessed be the most holy for that. We ain't coming down on nobody. That's the wrong day. The whole point is you realize we was doing it wrong and you're making strides to find the path to y'all, right? So let's bless the most holy for that, right? Okay. So the ones, I'm just super excited that we're like in the day of one another. I'm like, okay. So now we realize why we're within the day of one another, because us here in the United States, we're basing it like Yahuah said. He said, wherever you live on the earth, right? And so because we live here and we spotted the new moon Monday, right? Those that are here, some of us didn't see it like it was cloudy here. The calls came from California. One sister, Tracy, she gave me some insight about some stuff. Joanne gave me a site and everything. I looked into it and I realized a lot of people over here are people that are waking up. They're just falling. They're celebrating it like they're in Jerusalem according to Jerusalem's timeline, but they don't realize if they're celebrating it according to Jerusalem's timeline, like say Jerusalem, they're doing it on Tuesday, but you have to remember they're already into Tuesday while we're in Monday, because we see it here. Remember, we all spotted it at the same time. When we spotted it, it was the evening time on Monday. Remember, they're hours ahead of us over in Jerusalem. So when they spotted it, it was the early mornings. We all spotted it at the same time, but according to time zones and where we live, hemispheres, they're on Tuesday. That's why they're celebrating it on Tuesday. We're celebrating it on Monday because it was Monday here when we saw it. It was Tuesday there when they saw it, but we all saw it at the same time. Y'all get it? So y'all have to take into account the time marks. Now, those that are over here, their hearts is to do what's right. We're going to do it on Tuesday, not realizing their Tuesday is our Monday, right? The hour span. So when they're waiting to celebrate it on Tuesday, they're already late, because while they're waiting to do it on Tuesday, it's already Wednesday there in Jerusalem, right? And they're ending it. So that's why I kind of wanted to make clear. So, but if we were living in Jerusalem, if we're actually living there, then we would celebrate it on that time that they're celebrating it. But because we're not there, who said you celebrate it wherever you live on the earth. We went over that. We went and we read through them. You can see it repeatedly in Leviticus 23, right? If you don't know, go back and read over Leviticus 23. It's not just in Leviticus 23, but you see you will constantly repeating it every few verses. Wherever you live on the earth, you celebrate this wherever you live, right? Wherever you see it is where you celebrate it, because where we see it during the day, they see it during the early morning hours or whatever, right? And I didn't get that until just a few days ago, when I realized exactly what was going on. So here, while we're living in America, we're celebrating the Sabbath tomorrow. Remember, whatever day for the moon cycle, for the month, remember the word moon comes, the word month comes from the word moon. It kind of like transition, moon, month. Then they took out one of the O's and they just say it month, right? So every new moon, according to how Yahuah reckons time, is a new month. But they got us all discombobulated. We got one calendar in the sky with the sun, moon, and the stars, and we got another calendar, Gregorian calendar, that we got to follow. So that's why it's good if you kind of like track it. And remember, I told you, by me tracking it, I realized, wait a minute, there is a pattern that is ensuing here, right? And I had been already tracking it for a couple years, but it wasn't until earlier this year where I realized, and I started going through my data, through my planners and stuff, and looking at my months, like my full months like this. Remember I showed it to you? Where I realized, wait a minute, every time we have a new moon, the Sabbaths always fall in line. As we count the 7 days, they all without fail. And I didn't see that. I had all this data that I'm tracking myself. And as I go back, it is blowing my mind what I wrote in my planners and hadn't even realized the pattern that was constantly repeating. I'm like, oh, snap. So that's why when you hear me say the new moon is the line leader of the Sabbath, that's based on, that's my wording for it, on what I've seen as I've been tracking it over the last 3 years myself and my planner, writing, okay, I seen the new moon to here this day, this is what time I saw it, boom, and we start to count. Remember, the every time you start a month, the Sabbath days, it falls in line, right? And you count 1, 2, 3. So it don't matter where out the year you are, you should always be able to find out what the Sabbath day is. You should never lose your count on when the Sabbath is. And especially once you really begin to see and realize, wait a minute, oh, it's a Sabbath day. The moon looks like this. We looked at the moon quarters, and you can go and you can look. There are even a couple apps now that have it kind of set up where you can look and see. If you look at the full calendar and not just the weekly calendar, you can see how the Sabbaths fall right in line. You can look at it on 2 different views. You can look at it as Yahuah looks at it. Remember, Yahuah's calendar is fixed, right? It never changes. The Sabbath is always on the 7th day. But now, because we're living on a Gregorian calendar, remember it changed names over the millennia. This calendar is always moving. The days are always rotating. Remember, my birthday is March the 30th every single year. Just like the Sabbath is on the 7th day every single week, right? It doesn't change. But because of this calendar with the days of the week and names and stuff, my birthday, March the 30th, is never always on a Friday, right? It's like what the Jewish people are teaching, that the Sabbath is always Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. How is that possible? Y'all changing everything else but this, right? If everything else changes and you're labeling this according to the Gregorian calendar, why isn't that also rotating, right? Just like our birthdays rotate. 1 year it's on a Monday, next year it's on a Tuesday, then it skips, then it's on a Thursday. It cycles. The March the 30th cycles throughout the week every year. The Sabbath does the same, although it's fixed and it never moves on Yahuah's calendar. As the Gregorian calendar is moving and is superseded over Yahuah's calendar, it always changes, right? So you have to adjust this. The Sabbath that you list up here, the Sabbath should also rotate on this in order to keep it on this day here on Yahuah's calendar. So I know this is only 5 fingers, but for the sake of the conversation, y'all, an example, let's just say this is the Sabbath, right? Okay, but we take this calendar and we're moving it, right? So every time we get here, Sabbath, this should line up with this. Okay, now this is the Sabbath here. Now we move it again. Okay, now this is the Sabbath here. Now we move it here. Now this is the Sabbath here, right? We should change this to line up with this. So we always keep this on point. That makes sense. I know I explained it a couple times in a few different videos, but we might have some new people watching. So that's how we do it, right? And it's the same thing. We're living here. We have to make sure we move this to line up with what they're doing in the actual land. So our day would be different than what they're actually doing over there. Although it's not technically in the big scheme of things on Yahuah's calendar, but because we're living on separate calendars, we have to adjust the new calendars that we're living by to line up with what has always been fixed from the foundation of the world. I hope that makes sense, y'all. Y'all been here long enough, it probably makes sense to y'all. For the new people, like, what did you just say? Girl, I'm gonna have to go rewind this. What? I don't know a word you just said. I get it. When you're not familiar with Yahuah's calendar and tracking it, and you're still not kind of able to see how the clock in the sky operates. If you're just learning it, it'll take a few days. Maybe some people a couple months are actually tracking it. Actually begins to click a whole lot faster when you begin to track it yourself. So that's why I tell y'all, hey, we got new moon coming up. Everybody get out, look at it. Let's see how it moves. Okay, it's a Sabbath today. Go look and see what the moon looks like, right? And track it every Sabbath, and you begin to see a pattern. It's a Sabbath. Oh, snap. It's always this. It always looks like this. Over the last few months, we've been tracking, oh my gosh, right? So I'm not in the habit of just telling y'all information. I want y'all to actually get out there and experience it. So you yourself can own the information, right? And you ain't got to be like, oh, go look at such and such video. Now you become familiar, you become intimate with the information. It becomes a part of you. And now you yourself can teach it from your personality, right? And so the people that listen to you, you're able to teach them, right? It's only so many people that's going to listen to my voice. Right? So, but all of you, I heard somebody say a while ago, they said everybody alive on the planet has at least 15 people that will, I think it said at least 12 to 15 people that will listen to them, right? And that look up to them. Imagine if those 15 people that look up to you and are under your leadership, if they also, the 15 people that look up to them throughout their lifetime, if they're able to teach truth, it's almost like that, the MLM, right? You multi-level marketing, right? It's like, I hate to call it a pyramid scheme, but it's almost the same thing, right? You can reproduce truth so much faster, right? If the people who are under you are doing their own due diligence and they're not just, just there to just soak up information, but they're there to soak up information, but also internalize that information, assimilate it through themselves, actually begin to experience it. Oh, wow. And it becomes a part of their life. By them actually living it, people can actually see what you model, and they begin to pick up, especially those of your household, they can begin living out principles that they see you actually live out, and you just kind of reproduce righteousness that way, right? If you choose to do what's right. I mean, because you don't have to. Like we clearly see in the book of Kings, you can have a righteous father and live like Satan himself, right? And those kings are deposed from their thrones really quick. And we pull the next one up. Okay, you want to live like Asa did or Jeroboam? Asa? Okay, we'll bless you. You have a kingdom of peace. After you next, oh, you want to live like your evil father Jeroboam? Okay, you get 4 years to rule. Okay, who can we get to kill him? Right? And Yahuah has this whole conversation in his courtroom. Okay, we need to get them off the throne because they ain't gonna do us right. They can't get it right. I'll go and I'll be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. Oh, really? Go ahead and you shall succeed, right? And we just see that process happening all the time. All right, y'all. That's it for today. Let's go ahead and do this blessing. Get out of here. Go back. I thank y'all for hanging out with me today. We can hang out a little bit longer on the weekend. Some people actually have to work though, right? But that's cool. We always record it. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses of Numbers chapter 6 is the Nazarite vow. A man or a woman can take the Nazarite vow, right? It's not a vow that should be taken lightly. Some people say, oh, you can't do that. Hey, you know what? To each his own. If you believe you can do this for today, then go test it out. I'm of the mindset when somebody say, oh, that's not for today, that's done away with. Oh, really? First of all, I'm going to go read this for myself and say, is it? Well, let's put this to the test. And a lot of times you'll realize people who tell you stuff like that, they're not in the habit of practicing anything, right? They're not in the habit of practicing anything because faith doesn't become faith to you until you try it, right? And so some people have levels of faith that other people will never get because they're not willing to just go test the principles. Yahuah say, come test me. Come test me, right? And so those of us that have the faith to go out there and take some of this stuff and begin to apply it to our life, we are the ones who really begin to see that, wait a minute, these words are alive even today, right? Some people just don't get it until they actually begin to apply these principles to their life, just like the commands, right? So we don't need to, you have not applied them to, you haven't even tried to keep them, have you? And so I don't even argue with people like that because I can tell right off back, you don't even try to apply them to your life. You don't even try to prove the principles to see if they're living today, to see if they still apply to us. You haven't done that. And there's no point in me wasting my breath on people like that because they're not even willing to just take some time and apply these principles, right? Truly, wholeheartedly go apply them to your life. Don't try to just apply them because you want to prove me wrong because you're still not going to get any results, right? But for those who are truly searching for truth, okay, you know what? I'm going to forget what everybody else say. I need to test this for myself to see if this is really real. So I'm going to, Father, help me, because if this is real, I don't want to be telling people it's not. I don't want to be pushing people away from you when we really supposed to be doing this. So before I go tell anybody this, let me just try and keep this to myself. I ain't got to kill no animals, do I? We got to sacrifice, because I ain't even got access to animals. That's gross. I don't even eat meat. Do I got to kill an animal? I had to go through all this stuff, y'all. Like, seriously. And once I realized, who's like, listen, if you just do what's right, you never need to kill any kind of animal. Stop killing my animals, right? And I'm just like, ooh, you're right. Wait a minute. So we can just do what's right, and we never got to worry about making, like, sacrifices. Like, some people just don't get that because they come from, like, this religious teaching that has improperly taught them stuff, right? And they just really just need to go to y'all, me and you. Okay. I done heard a whole bunch of garbage all my life. I'm trying to transition. They told me to go into the Hebrew roots, and so I'm over here, but it still seemed like the same garbage, and I don't really know what to do, but I know you're real, so I need you to help me. Help me to do this. What am I supposed to do? Okay, just simply read it. Get familiar with the story. First of all, find out who your people are, right? And you go through, you get familiar, like, wait a minute. Then wait a minute. That's happening today. Our people still do that. Oh, you're right. Wait a minute. This is talking about us. This is a bunch of Negroes that this is talking about. Oh, snap, right? So it's the whole little process. It has to become personal to you. You have to be able to own the information. And when you do, there's like this little bit of power that starts to follow your life, because you have been able to apply it to your own life. And now you have Yah standing behind you, and you can speak boldly to people about some things, right? And that comes from personal time and relationship, and just going to Yah, be like, I need you to teach me what is true and what is not, right? Okay. So the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Like I said, the first 21 verses is the Nazirite vow. Man or woman can take it. It is not a vow that should be taken lightly. If you decide to take it, take some time and think about it. What is going to be required of you, and can you keep to this? If not, it'd be better not to take it than to take a vow and not to do it. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying on this wise, Ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Whose name? Yahuah's name. He said, that is my memorial name forever. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with me today. I will see y'all Tuesday, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, beautiful people. And I think I kind of answer questions as we go. So we out of here. We didn't spend enough time here today. Everybody go enjoy your day. Love y'all. Peace.